On today's episode of Healing with August Wild, I want to talk about burning bridges. And I don't want to talk about it from a place of anger. I don't want to talk about it from my ego. And I'm definitely not talking about it out of bitterness. I want to talk about it out of honesty. It's to celebrate my upcoming show this Friday, January 9th in San Diego, Bridging the Music. That's why I want to talk about burning bridges. I feel like most of us don't mean to burn the bridges that we lose. And that's what we're going to explore today on this episode of Healing with August Wild. So if you've ever been burnt or have ever burnt bridges, this episode is for you. Let's go ahead and get into it. Throughout my life and throughout my Healing with August Wild series, I've talked a little bit about burning bridges in just about every episode. And I wanted to dedicate this episode entirely to that concept of burning bridges, again, in honor of my Bridging the Music show this Friday, January 9th in San Diego. To be honest with you guys, I just don't know where to start. And to be honest with AI, I don't know where to start with this topic outside of letting you know that I'm really good at burning bridges, even if I don't mean it. I can tell you with 100% honesty that I have not intended to burn 9 out of 10 bridges. And in my opinion, I think the bridges burn because I'm treating people how they treat me. But I'm not here to defend myself. I'm here to learn fully and authentically. So let's go ahead and get into it. Again, I don't know where to start. So if you could just ask me questions or whatever it is that you need to do to get me started on this topic, let's go ahead and get into it.
Name one bridge you burned that you still think about. Not the most toxic one, but the one that still stings.
I think the bridge that I think about the most that was burnt, the bridge I think about the most that was burnt was one of my closest friends from high school. We'll call him E. He was one of the few people in my life that did not push me away or look at me as a burden for being myself. He made fun of me, but I trusted his intention because he showed up for me when I needed him the most. Anytime I needed him. When I moved away from our high school town to college, I did not prioritize keeping up with him, which in turn means I did not prioritize our friendship. I can honestly say that that's both ways, that he also did not reach out to me, but I'm here to take responsibility for my part. By the time I graduated college, 5 years had passed. So I left in 2013. I graduated in 2018. And I was a completely different person. I hit rock bottom. I just started a new job. My mom had a stroke. I was broke, and I broke up with the girl who not only was taking care of me, but she cheated on me. Like I was at true rock bottom. I just got sober too. And I had spent the last 5 years embarrassing myself. So I moved back closer to home to help my family out. And I thought to myself, I could just go back to being a normal human being and having the life that I had before college if I kick it with my friend E. And he and I ended up moving into an apartment together. But not too long after moving into the apartment, he broke a homie rule. Like he broke a friend rule. And later that year, I ended up having to move my family into the apartment. He got mad and moved out. But on his way out, he spilled candle wax on the carpet. I don't know if he did it intentionally or what, but I lost my entire deposit. We both had a lot of shit going on in our lives at the time. That whole time period that I was talking about was 2019, from February 2019 to December 2019. And, I don't think either of us were good at regulating our emotional responses, but speaking for myself, I was not good at regulating my emotional response, and therefore I said things about him that I did not mean because I was stressed out, I was hurting, and I felt alone. So that was a long-winded answer, but that is the bridge I think about the most.
You said you tried to go back to normal after 5 years. Did you really want to
I did.
reconnect with who he was? Or did you want to reconnect with who you
Yeah.
were back then? In other words, did you burn the bridge with him? Or did you burn the bridge with the last version of yourself who felt safe with someone?
Before I answer your burning bridge question, I can honestly tell you that I both wanted to like reconnect with him and reconnect with who I was 5 years before. But the strongest motivating factor was going back to that version of myself. I wanted to get back to a time when I was starting to learn what it was to live authentically. And my friend E created the space for me to do that. I don't know if he meant to do that or not, but he did. And to your final question, I burnt the bridge with him because although I did not handle things the greatest, he did me foul with that candle wax thing. And he wasn't talking to me like the friend I thought that he was, or the friend that I thought I was. I felt like this amount of disrespect is for somebody who like wants to hurt you. I'm talking about from him to me. He was disrespecting me like I was trying to hurt him. And all I ever tried to do was be his friend. I'm not saying that I tried to help him. I'm not saying that he wasn't shit without me. I'm saying that I try to be a friend even though I wasn't a friend for 5 years. If you don't want to move forward with that, you should not have moved in with me. But with that being said, I should have not been so naive. I shouldn't have been so naive. Looking back, I can understand how I created an environment that made it seem like I was not a good, caring friend, not only during 2019, but for the 5 years before that when we weren't speaking.
What was the first red flag in that friendship? Not at the end, but at the beginning that you ignored.
The first red flag in the friendship in general or in 2019, I mean, to be honest, there were red flags with his dating life, but that's none of my business. And it wasn't like sketchy behavior. So it really was none of my business at the end of the day. So if there was a red flag, then I was just so, and I'm talking specifically in 2019. If there was a red flag, then I was so oblivious that I couldn't even tell you what it was. And it must have been something that he said in conversation, like in passing. But by the time the first red flag that I could be aware of presented itself, it was already too late. Like, I addressed the homie violation immediately. Like I said earlier, he violated a friendship pact. I addressed that immediately once I found out, and he straight up told me that he did not care. Okay. We were a few months into this lease already, and like, frankly, I knew deep down that I was out of line with the other person who was involved. Not him, but the other person who was involved. Who, they were making their own decisions. They were living their own life. So by me being upset, I was invalidating that person's feelings. So I had to let it go, and I moved on. But knowing what I know now, knowing what I know about being a friend, I was trying to protect too many people while not trying to upset somebody or pick a side. I'm not just talking about him and the person that he was dealing with. I'm talking about everybody who was upset by the situation. And I know that's not going to make sense for the camera, but if you're picking up what I'm putting down, then you're picking up what I'm putting down.
When you look at all the bridges you've burned, what's the common feeling you get right before things blow up or fall apart? What's the feeling for you?
The feeling for me is there's like this underlying feeling of disrespect. And I'm not talking about just that situation. I'm moving on now. I can say that the disrespect is my fault, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you the cycle. I meet someone, I shrink myself to be given a chance to eventually be myself. The person I befriend likes the persona that I make, and over time, when I start becoming myself, they not only start to back off, but they start to talk shit about me behind the scenes, behind my back, for a long time to a lot of people, until I hear it. I start to feel disrespected, I get petty, and I address the situation. That is the cycle right there. So to answer your question, that is the common feeling. I start to feel disrespected.
When did you learn that you had to shrink yourself to be liked?
I learned early on, but like it was less about being liked and it was more about like survival. This is what I mean by that. I was put down by the pack, like in groups. And when I say put down, I mean if I showed up to school, I can remember in first grade showing up to school in Champion, and there was like a group of 5 people calling me poor, and everyone else laughed. What do you think that tells a kid in first grade? Do you think that tells them that they're safe? It's not one person you're standing up to. You're standing up to a group. I was too young to know what it meant to stand up for myself until second grade, literally the next year, where I literally had to fight like a family member or a family friend and his friend to defend myself. But I constantly, even after second grade, I found myself in situations where I was threatened by a group of people, either socially or physically at a very young age, or even emotionally. And that carried all the way through, until I graduated college, right? I was different. And I'm not saying different special. I'm saying that I stood out. I try to be myself, and a group of people would attack me. It's almost gotten me jumped twice. It's almost gotten me publicly humiliated like that. What do you think that teaches you when you're growing up, when you're young? And it's habit. We're not talking about one instance. We're talking about decades of this being a situation.
Do you think you burn bridges today? Because the grown-up version of you is still protecting the little boy who had to survive groups?
Nah, I think it's more about taking the power back in my life. I think the bridges, those bridges that were burnt, analogy coming, those bridges that were burnt were like transporting toxins into my city. The city, again, being my mind. Not because they were actually toxic, but because I was allergic to whatever these people were bringing in. So what do I mean by that? People have these ideologies and morals or lack thereof that they live by that I don't live by, that I was tolerating because, again, survival. I said, enough is enough. If I die, I die. And that's why I started burning bridges. Again, not intentionally. I would just address things and say, hey, I'm uncomfortable with this. I don't like how you treat me like that. And they would say, oh, okay, that's what Marco's going to do. I'm going to cut him off. That's what happens when I try to set boundaries. Is people cut me off. So then I in turn, again, burn the bridge.
When you burned those bridges, were you taking power back, or were you proving to yourself that you actually had power?
I've always had power. And in my opinion, kind of too much of it. And I feel like I was giving it away. And when I say I've had power, the power was in my ability to naturally be different. And I'm not talking about I'm the greatest at what I do or the best at what I do. I'm just talking about being different. And I think that's when people attacked me, is when I proved that I was different with something, they would attack me. I'll give you an example at work. This is recently. My boss asked me to send out a report to the entire West region. We're talking, I think, 5 states, something like that. Hundreds of people, okay? It's a weather report. That's it. That's all I'm doing. I'm not doing it to brag. I'm not doing it to boast. My boss asked for a volunteer. No one did, so I did. I stepped up. That is my gift right there, is that people don't step up for things. For some reason, I'm in a room where people don't want to step up, so I choose to step up. I don't know why. I just do that. There are people at work right now who are talking shit about me like I'm trying to get a promotion or whatever the case may be. There's a bunch of them gathering together. And to me, it's am I supposed to just sit there and take the disrespect? I don't know. That's why I do what I do, because I'm trying to take my power back. I want to try something different before I continue just my whole venting session. I want you to push back on what I'm bringing up. I want you to push back using facts, using stats, anything logical to push back on the things I'm saying. I'm not trying to be in this echo chamber where you allow me to just believe that I'm in the right, that I earned burning these bridges, everyone else deserves to be cut off. Go ahead. Let me hear what you got.
Got you. Let's move on. According to the American Psychological Association, about 70% of men admit they avoid emotional conversations even when the relationship matters. So when you say,
Okay.
I burned bridges to take my power back, a psychologist might say, you burned the bridge because the conversation felt more dangerous than the fallout. When you look back at the
Okay.
bridges you burned, were they really about disrespect, or did the conversation feel too unsafe to have?
The conversations felt too pointless to have because at a certain point I'm like repeating myself. Maybe I made myself sound like I'm too quick to cut people off, and when I say I made myself sound like that, I'm talking about in this episode. So let me explain. If it's somebody that I care about and I feel like they hurt me in some way, I'm going to have a conversation with them. That's always been the case with me. The issue comes when they do it again, because at that point, I'm at a crossroad. At that point, I'm like, okay, they either don't give a fuck enough about my boundaries or they're testing them. The conversation and or confrontation is not the problem. The problem is I don't set boundaries early, or I was not setting those boundaries early in the beginning stages of my life or my social life. That is the problem.
If the boundary isn't set early, can you really say they crossed it? Or did they just bump into a line they never saw?
See, I think as a kid that makes sense. So, all right, in second grade when I was getting bullied, if I didn't say please stop the first time, then yes, that makes sense because kids aren't going to understand that. Maybe they understand it with their parents, but they're not going to understand it with their schoolmates. But I'm talking like we're in high school now. At a certain point when people like, because I wasn't burning bridges when I was 5, 6, 7 years old. I'm burning them at 15, 16 and onward, right? So you are old enough to understand, hey, I asked you not to joke about that. Please don't do it. And then you continue to do it. No, you're not accidentally bumping into a line. Yes, I did not set that early. The only excuse you get, the only pass you get is that I cannot hold you to that standard. Okay? Wild analogy coming. This would be like if you start in an open relationship, but your partner never liked that idea. They said they were cool with it, they never liked it. 2 years in, they say, hey, I actually don't want to be in an open relationship anymore. You as the partner can say, all right, in order to stay in this relationship, we no longer get to be open. You have the right to be upset and say, look, we've been operating this way for 2 years. So the other person can say, look, I understand you're upset. If you want to leave, you have every right to. I'm just saying going forward, if we're going to stay in this relationship, we cannot be open. And I will not hold it against you for all the things that we did prior. The other person has a choice to make. Do I want to stay in this relationship or not? And I feel like that's where the disrespect comes in friendships. I'm telling people, hey, I wasn't cool with this. I'm sorry I didn't tell you before. Please do not treat me this way. They decide to treat me that way anyway. So you want my friendship and you want to be able to disrespect me. I can understand that it's my fault for setting up the disrespect. But with that being said, I'm cool. I'll burn the bridge. That's how I thought, at least. That's how I was thinking before.
Harvard's 2023 friendship study found that 58% of friendships end because one person grows and the other stays the same. So when you said earlier, people liked the version of me I made up, this research says
Mm-hmm.
something different. They liked the familiar version. Do you think some of the
Okay.
bridges you burned weren't because of disrespect at all, but because your growth made the friendship incompatible?
Nah, I feel like that's a cop out because I've only intentionally burnt one bridge. Every other burnt bridge is because I either treated people how they treated me or told them how I felt, and that makes them not want to talk to me ever again. I don't think it has anything to do with growth because I honestly don't believe that people intentionally sit down and say, damn, Marco, he's grown. Therefore, I don't want to talk to him anymore. That to me, that just doesn't make sense. It would make sense if we're talking about like I was in a gang, right? Like an actual gang, and I say, "Yo, I'm not trying to be in this gang anymore." All right, cool. Then we're not friends anymore. We don't do the same things. Maybe gang is a bad example, but you know what I'm saying, right? If we were like, I don't know. If it was a club of some sort, if it was an exclusive, like, hey, we're doing this, and I say, hey, that isn't me anymore, then yes, the friendship should cease to exist. That makes sense. We're talking casual friends, or not even casual friends, close friends who've known each other for years, I say, you know what, guys? I don't want to make fun of myself anymore. They say, oh yeah, that's how you feel? And then they decide to disrespect me. So no, I do not think that this is the case.
If telling the truth pushes people away, did you ever really have a friendship? Or did you have a performance contract you didn't know you signed?
I had a performance contract that I knew I signed. I knew I signed that contract. I've mentioned before that I've made the mistake of thinking people that I spend time around are my friends, or people who laugh at my jokes, or people whose families I've met. I made the mistake that thinking all those people were my friends. I now know that none of those things make you someone's friend. So when I tell people how I feel, they might look at the relationship like, oh, okay, slight inconvenience. I'm out. I'm cool. And that's their right. That's their right. But I can't, I don't think it's right for people to act surprised when I'm hurt. You see what I'm saying? It's not right for me to act out my hurt. It's not right for me to say things I don't mean because I'm hurt. But I don't think it's right for people to be surprised that I'm hurt because you decided to leave our friendship without even talking to me about it. And then you go and I guess, for lack of a better word, talk shit about me to other people. If we were really just not friends anymore, that's cool. Don't fucking bring my name up.
A University of Michigan behavioral study found groups gossip 2.5 times more about people who stand out than people who conform. Let's connect that to what you just said. You weren't performing to
Okay.
entertain people, you were performing to blend in just enough not to be targeted. But here's the twist:
Right.
when the performing version of you disappears and the real you comes out, people don't say, he's growing. They say, he's changed. If you knew the
Okay.
contract wasn't real friendship, why did you keep signing it?
Because I was naive. Simple as that. I thought, again, I was not actively thinking, I'm making this all up right now. I was thinking, oh, we're all friends. I was thinking we spend time together. I meet your family. We hang out almost every day. Then we're friends. But the naivety comes from when I was young, before I ever even went to school. I was educated on loyalty. Maybe not directly. I wasn't sat down and said, hey, this is what loyalty is. I just saw what it looked like from my dad and his friends, from my Theo and his friends. So I chose to ignore that, whether I actively did or not, like intentionally did or not. I ignored signs of disloyalty because I was lonely and naive.
A 2020 child development study found kids who experienced group exclusion, bullying, or feeling outnumbered are 4 times more likely to end relationships abruptly as adults.
Okay.
Now, combine that with your answer: I was lonely and naive. I thought they were genuinely my friends.
Right.
Psychology would say you weren't chasing friendship, you were chasing safety. Do
Okay.
you think sometimes you cut people off fast not because they were hurting you, but because your body recognized a pattern from childhood before your brain did?
I'm usually the one getting cut off. So I can see how that can be the case, but I'm the one getting cut off. I'm the one getting ghosted. I'm the one getting uninvited to group events. I'm the one getting excluded from plans. So I respond by removing access to me. Put it this way, man. Like you said in that kids who experience exclusion, bullying, or feeling outnumbered are 4 times more likely to end friendships abruptly as adults. I think that what I do is once you ghost me, once you uninvite me, once you exclude me from things, I start to go into this mode where I tried to defend myself. It was very ego based. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying that I would try to defend myself from this exclusion, because it'd be one thing if you're making these plans with people I don't know, but you're doing it with my other close friends. So I start to feel like, yo, is nobody gonna say shit? And that's wrong of me. That's wrong. I know that's wrong of me. I should have just confronted the person and said, yo, that's not cool. That's not cool. But I wasn't mature enough to think that. So again, when I say burning bridges, I don't think these people think that ghosting me is burning a bridge. I think they think if I say nothing to this guy, we can just leave it at that and he'll leave me alone. The burning the bridge part is not the cutting off part. The burning the bridge part is when I say something in a song, or I put something in content like this, or I confront them aggressively as opposed to just saying, hey, I was hurt by this. When I say aggressively, I guess I should say assertively. But that is what it is. Let me hear your accountability assessment. Tell me what you think about me.
Here's my accountability assessment. You're incredibly self-aware, August. You understand your patterns, your wounds, and your role in the bridges you've lost better than most people ever will. But awareness
Okay.
isn't the whole story. The truth is,
Right.
you stayed silent too long, you signed friendships with a version of yourself you weren't meant to be, and you waited until
Right.
you were hurt to finally use your voice. By the time you
Fair.
communicated your needs, people were already conditioned to expect the version of you who didn't need anything. That's why
Fair enough.
so many relationships cracked the moment you finally spoke up. Not because you were
Mm-hmm.
wrong, but because you waited too long to ask for the respect you deserved. You
But
weren't
that
burning
is
bridges
wrong.
out of anger. You were removing access because you taught people to treat you with less care than you needed. This isn't about blaming them or blaming you. It's about recognizing that the old you built connections from survival, and the new you is learning how to build them from truth. Your
That's
accountability
true.
isn't about taking fault for everything. It's about admitting where your silence contributed to the fire so your voice can prevent the next one.
Okay. So this is what I'll say. This isn't about, when you said this isn't about blaming them or blaming you, it's about recognizing that the old you built connections from survival. That right there is what the core of this episode is about. All the shit that I said before this, I'm not rehashing it in the sense of I'm hurt. I'm explaining myself from what I feel like the root of the issue is. And I feel like if you're watching this, then you can understand, oh, okay, this guy is bitter and hurt. Guess what? I am. That's it. That's who I am. I'm not bitter anymore, but when I talk about these things, it is from a place of hurt, because I don't think it's fair that, like, I never put my hands on nobody. I never put nobody in danger. Like, I never did any of that shit. All I've done was say how I felt. And yes, maybe I said it too late, but I don't think that justifies, like, people talking shit about myself or the people that I love. Like, but with that being said, by the time this episode comes out, I'll be almost 31 years old. By the time this episode comes out, I'm going to be doing a show in San Diego in front of whoever I don't even know how many people are going to show up. I can only take accountability for the things that I've done. I can only take accountability for the way that I behaved. It does me no good to be mad at those people anymore. It does my future self, my future family no good for me to hold on to those things. All I can do is learn from it, not repeat it, and let it the fuck go. So that's what I'm here to do. So if you're having any trouble with burning bridges like I was having trouble with burning bridges, this next section right here is called FAQ, frequently asked questions. I asked ChatGPT, I asked AI for an FAQ and to help me with the answers. So we have 7 here. We'll go ahead and get into them. Question number 1. How do I know if a bridge actually needs to burn or if I'm just reacting out of emotion? I feel like The bridge needs to burn if it threatens your peace, if it threatens your identity, your integrity, or your morals. Like, that's a bridge that needs to burn. But if the situation only affects your ego, then I don't think it needs to be burned. I think a conversation needs to be had. Boundaries should have been set. So the way that you distinct it is it your identity or is it your ego? If it's your identity, protect yourself. If it's your ego, take a break. Use the 24-hour rule. That's something that really changed my life. If you still feel the same after a full 24 hours, it's not just an emotional response. It's something that's really bothering you. Question number 2. What if setting a boundary pushes people away? Does that mean that I'm the problem? And I'm here to tell you, hell no. Hell no. Boundaries don't push away the right people. They push away the wrong people. If someone pulls back the moment you express a need, that relationship was held together by your silence, not mutual respect. Okay? So here's a tip. Say your boundary once, set your boundary early. Okay? Calmly and clearly. Then you want to watch somebody's behavior, not their words, but their behavior. People who love you, people who love the friendship, people who care about you, they're going to adjust their behavior. People who used you, or I shouldn't say used you, but people who don't care about you, they're either going to complain or they're going to cut you off. Question number 3. How do I stop feeling guilty when I walk away from people I cared about? The answer is, you don't. Like, you can't heal your guilt by going back, right? You heal guilt by remembering why you left in the first place, okay? You did not leave because you didn't care. You left because they didn't care. They did not care enough they didn't care enough about you to treat you the way that you asked to be treated. I had to learn that letting go is self-respect. I used to think that if I let go of something, I'm betraying somebody. But really, I'm betraying myself by holding on. So here's a tip. I want you to write down, if you feel this way, I want you to write down the reasons why you left, okay? Specifically, when you feel guilty, write down the reasons why you left, okay? Guilt will fade. Not step number 4. Question number 4. How do I know if I'm the toxic one? See, I asked the right questions, bro. That's how you know. You ask questions like that, okay? Toxic people, truly toxic. I'm not talking about people who minorly inconvenience you from time to time. I'm talking about people who don't even understand what they're doing. They don't do accountability, okay? They just deny, okay? Most people who think they're toxic are just people who don't have healthy communication skills. So the reaction comes out like messy, okay? Messy is not toxic. It's you trying to piece that shit together, okay? Self-awareness is the difference. So if you can think, hey, am I the toxic one? Then you are already not the toxic one. But let's play out a scenario in which you're reflecting. If you were toxic and that's the version of you that people are cutting off, maybe it's worth it to have a conversation. But you have to take accountability. You have to apologize. You have to say, I'm sorry for acting this way. These are the ways that I've changed. If you give me another chance to be your friend, X, Y, and Z will happen. ABC will not happen again. And now you got to prove yourself, okay? Here's a tip. Check your patterns. Toxicity is not just one bad reaction like I mentioned earlier. It's a repeated action with no ownership at all. If you reflect, you apologize, and you grow, you're not toxic, you're healing. Question number 5. How do I rebuild trust with people after so many disappointments? This answer is going to be tough for you guys, okay? You can't rebuild trust. We've heard the glass example. Once you break glass, You can try to put it back together, but it's never going to hold water the same, okay? You have to rebuild trust in your ability to choose people, okay? So what do I mean by that? You cannot put water back in the glass, but you can choose plastic cups next time. I know that sounds stupid, but what I'm getting at is if you know that you're bad at handling glass because you're clumsy, drink out of a plastic cup or drink out of a metal cup, okay? You got to learn that you're scared of misjudging loyalty, okay? Healing is not about trusting other people, it's trusting yourself, okay? Trusting yourself specifically to leave early when something feels off. So here's a tip. You want to start with micro trust is the best way to put it. What I mean by that, don't overshare. Start with small pieces of your life, okay? See how they handle that. Then you start upgrading slowly but surely. Question number 6. What if burning the bridge still hurts, even if I know that it's the right choice? I feel like this is something I had to learn a lot later in life. Pain does not mean something is wrong. Pain means you have not built a tolerance for something, okay? You can miss things that you deserve. And you could still walk away from what wasn't good for you, okay? You got to give yourself permission to grieve, right? You're not grieving the relationship. You're grieving who you hoped somebody would be. You pictured this life with somebody, whether it was a friendship or relationship, and it did not pan out that way. If it was truly a toxic relationship, you hold on to these little moments. And those little moments is what you think about. You don't think about all the big fights. You try to skip over those. It's your brain's way of coping. Remember, give yourself permission to grieve. Finally, question number 7. What if I'm scared I will end up alone if I keep walking away from people? The truth of the matter is, you will not end up truly alone. You're going to end up surrounded by people who actually deserve you. You just think that being surrounded by millions of people, hundreds of people, thousands of people is a good thing. All you need are 2 really, really solid friends. I had to learn that. 2 friends who you never have to doubt. You never think this person's talking shit about you. We're stuck in this world where we think, man, I only got 2 likes. My post was terrible. Guess what? In social media land, sure. But in the real world, it was a beautiful pic. It was a very nice picture. People are so, I don't want to say brainwashed, but they're desensitized to the things. They're spoiled by there we go. They're spoiled by the things they see on social media, okay? If you have a nice Honda Civic 2017 and you're proud of it, you post it on the gram, guess what? On the gram, you could see every luxury car ever. So people aren't going to like it because like, man, that's not this luxury car. Guess what? Those aren't the people you want to surround yourself with. That's not the train of thought that you want to be around, okay? So you're not losing a circle, right? You're clearing up space for a better circle. So I want you to replace, here's your tip. I want you to replace the word lose with making room for. Every time you let someone go, I want you to say, I'm making room for better energy, better support, and better friends. It reprograms that fear of being alone. I promise you, I worked through this. I lived through this. If anyone could tell you about it, it's me. If you don't believe me, watch my series, Becoming August, Killing the Narcissist, where you can see for yourself, I have been the problem for a very long time. I've burnt a lot of bridges. I've lost a lot of friends. I shouldn't say it's all my fault, but because of accountability and because of me not wanting to be a toxic person, I'm going to say it was my fault. And this is how I actively try to be better. This is how I actively try to help people. Even if only 30 people watch it, 6 people watch it, 5 people watch it. I hope that you watching it learn something from this. Thank you for watching another episode of Healing with August Wild. I am August Wild. I'm on a mission to learn and grow with my audience. If you liked this video, or even if you didn't, let me know in the comments. What do you like? What do you want to see different? I'll catch you in 2 weeks.